Hello, this video is a run-through of a presentation that is being prepared for NEOPC to be given on July 11th, 2018. The topic is Windows 10. The presenter is myself, Bruce Brockman, and I am the president of NEOPC. This presentation is copyrighted by BIU. Now, I think I might be wrong, but this lovely looking man up here has MS tattooed all over him. I'm not sure what that stands for. First I thought it might be Microsoft, but that couldn't be, right? So when I decided to do this presentation, I got a note from the editor of our newsletter that said we need some blurb about what you're going to talk about. So I said, well, it's going to be Microsoft Windows 10, the good, bad, and the ugly. And so that's what they put down. When I started to do this presentation, I decided to look that up. 11,300,000 hits on Google. Windows 10, good, bad, and ugly. Obviously, it's a hot topic. So, in thinking about it, I'm doing a short presentation, relatively speaking, but it could be that the people that are going to watch it need more information than what I can give them. So a lot of people are better at reading books and looking at indexes and finding exactly what they're looking for. So I decided to go on Amazon and see how many books there were in regards to Windows 10. And when I did a search for Windows 10 in books, it said there are 5,000 plus results for Windows 10. And there are books that go for a lot of money, actually. But there's some free ones. You probably don't get much information from those. Actually, we'll take a look at the Amazon site and see a couple of those books. 37 bucks, that's not too cheap. 17, 18, 15, 35, 17. A lot of different prices. There's one that you can even rent for $21.53, $43 to buy it. And I'm familiar with this particular book. It's over 900 pages long. You shouldn't have to write that much about an operating system, I don't think. But anyhow, as we go through this presentation, it's going to be about my thoughts. This is the fourth year in a row that I've done a presentation for NEOPC for our July meeting about Windows 10. And some of the predictions I made, I just was going through some of the videos from back then, are coming true. The facts are the facts. How it works for you is what is really important. You know, there are people that love Windows 10, not as many as don't like Windows 10, but there are people that really think it's a great operating system. And basically, it's a solid operating system after they get the bugs out. And it depends on what you're doing with your computer, whether you think it's wonderful or not, and whether you've had problems with it or not. And we're going to explore some of the reasons that there are problems, and if you haven't had any, why you're going to. Before I start doing a presentation, certainly I've had a lot of experience with Windows 10 running. several machines in my house on Windows 10 and answering questions for club members on Windows 10. But I like to take my prejudices and check them out. This is a list of websites that are bookmarked, and you can see that there are more. I just happened to take a picture of what was up as I prepare for this, and I have actually a separate folder for Anniversary Edition and for the Creator Plus, which has a pile of bookmarks also. So I want to make sure that my prejudices don't show through here, although they're bound to, because 4 days before this presentation was to be made, I had to do a major revamp. I ran into some things that people needed to know about. So I'm not real happy with Windows 10 today, and I hope it doesn't show in my voice. It may, but I hope it doesn't. 4 years ago, when we talked about Windows 10, and we said it was a free changeover to Windows 10, they were giving it away, and we were worried about how will they make any money. Well, all has been revealed, and I'll fill you in on some of it as we go further through the presentation. When Windows 10 was first announced, this is about where we were, and the stock was below $40. It had languished for almost 7 years in the $25 to $35 range. When I took this screenshot, it was at $99.76. Yesterday I checked it, it was $104. Obviously there's some people that have confidence that Microsoft knows how to make money with a free operating system. So the key to it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is Microsoft account. And for those that are dealing with Windows 10, you'll notice that they keep bugging you to get a Microsoft account. And if you don't have one, you really can't take full advantage of what this operating system has to offer. On the other hand, there probably is an economic reason that Microsoft wants you to have an account. Good, bad, and ugly. Is it or isn't it? Well, it really depends on how you look at it. One of the reasons I had to revamp this thing is I went to get into it yesterday to make some changes. I was locked out of the system, could not get in, could not enter a password because the keyboard was non-functional. Fortunately, I had backed up the presentation to an external drive, and I wasn't terribly concerned other than, again, it was eating a lot of my time. So I did a search on can't log into Windows 10, and lo and behold, almost 100 million hits on Google about people that couldn't get into Windows 10. There are lots of problems with login, and Microsoft is aware of it and slowly fixing old problems, and new ones seem to be cropping up. I had never had a login problem ever. And this machine that this presentation is made on, and this video is being made on, is over 6 years old. It was top of the line when I bought it, and I have added a new video card is all I've done to it. So it's still a functional machine. But Windows is beginning to think not so much. In fact, as I started this presentation today to make this video, the microphone I was using no longer functions. So I had to find a microphone camera combination that was suitable for Windows 10 1803. Because in 1709, the camera and the microphone worked. The good of Windows 10. I thought this would be short, but it is not short. It really depends, though, on your perspective and your needs. What is good about Windows 10? First of all, before we go any further, you all need to accept there is no such thing as privacy, no matter what. Windows 10, I classify the users in 4 categories: gamers, home users, office workers, and researchers, groups that share a lot of information. And there can be, you can belong to more than one of these, but this is basically where I break it down. And we'll start with the gamers. Now, I've played solitaire in the 30 years that I've been using computers. I've played solitaire a couple of times, and that's as far as I've ever gotten with a game. I am not a gamer, so I have predisposed prejudices against games. But there are an awful lot of people that don't. And Microsoft accommodates them with Xbox One X. It's a fairly new version of the Xbox. And it is capable of 6 teraflops. That's right, I said teraflops. So what's a teraflop? Well, it has to do with floating decimal numbers. So like 25.66 divided by 91.305 would be floating decimal points. If you do that division, it counts as one problem. A teraflop is a trillion calculations per second. So the Xbox One X is capable of 6 trillion floating decimal calculations per second. Astronomical. So why does it need to do all that? Well, it's rendering all of the video to make it look really lifelike, and the more video that you can process quicker, the better it's going to look. The closest to the Xbox One X currently is a Sony, and it does 4.2 teraflops. There are 59 million active monthly users for Xbox Live. That's the gaming part of this thing. That's 1 out of every 6 Americans alive, men, women, and children, are using Xbox every month. Bigger than I thought. I guess we don't have to worry about Microsoft making a little money with that. And really, one of the ways that they make money with it is selling games. Now, these games are just for PCs. They're not for the Xbox. These run on Windows 10. And as you can see, there's an awful lot. This was the first page, and there's an awful lot of pre-orders. So there's new games coming out all the time. And Microsoft gets a slice of all of this action, no doubt. But these are just for PCs. It's even bigger when you go to what's for Xbox. There's over 1,000 currently in the Microsoft store. And they keep running the old ones out and new ones in. So it's big, huge business. Lots of money to be made. So you say, well, I'm not a gamer. Well, I know a lot of people that don't think they're gamers, but they play Candy Crush all the time. And on Windows 10, Candy Crush is actually on the start menu in 2 places. It's got a little tile there too. And numbers on Candy Crush are a little hard to come by. This was from September of 2013. And at that point, Candy Crush was taking in $850,000 a day. A day in 2013, 5 years ago. Candy Crush Saga has 2.73 billion downloads in 5 years, and still adding downloads all the time. Don't worry about Microsoft's bottom line. As I said earlier, I'm not a gamer, but I was exploring all that Xbox can do, and they have a section online that allows you to look at what it can do in every country around the world. This is North and South America, but they did it for Europe and Asia and Australia and so on by country. And I would assume that some of this has to do with their laws, why some of these features are not available, or language issues. But anyhow, obviously you can control all of the Xbox stuff with your voice, and uh, actually some motions will control some of the functions. In addition to the gaming part, it has a Blu-ray player built into it, so if you have movies and things that you want to watch, you can put them into the Xbox and it'll play them for you. It can stream live television. So if you're interested in cutting the cord, this is certainly one of the options. And there are movies and TV programs available through the Microsoft Store. The United States is the only one that has all of the Xbox's functions available. Obviously close is Canada, but they limit Cortana for whatever reason. I assume it's legal. So how about the home user, the average person that uses this thing? Cortana, obviously, everyone is asking questions of their personal assistant, whether it be Siri or Hey Google or Cortana. Cortana was, when it came out, rated as better than the other two, and they haven't done much with it since. Certainly it keeps track of everything you say and can be used to market things that are of interest to you. OneDrive, they want you to put everything in your life on OneDrive. So you'll have access to it no matter where you are. You'll be able to look at your pictures and get your documents and all your bookmarks and all that sort of stuff. They give you some free space on OneDrive, and they're hoping that you're going to use more than the free space. And currently they've tied that to Windows 365. And again, they want you to have everything that you created in 365. Currently, the charge for 365 is really tied to OneDrive. Whether it stays that way or not is up for grabs. And games, people play solitaire and whatever. They've taken that out of Windows and put it back in, and so on. Candy Crush. There are other games that you'll see as part of your start menu, ones that give Microsoft a teeny bit of income times how many users there are. Turns out to be a lot. And they really have put a push on Microsoft Edge, which is their browser entry. Microsoft's been trying to make a great browser forever and has had little or no success. They're currently really putting a push on Edge and claiming it to be faster, better, safer than everything else. Obviously, it keeps track of everything that you look at and tries to sell you things after that. So almost all these things are focused in one way or another on making money for Microsoft. And when all this becomes part of the Universal Windows platform, it'll make much better sense. But again, you've got to use your Microsoft account for that to be functional. So what is the Universal Windows platform? What they mean by that is an operating system that can function on virtually any piece of hardware, all the way from mainframe computers down to small cell phones, if they had cell phones, which they don't anymore. And it'll be a cut down version, but the basic operation of the platform will be the same across all the devices. And that way they'll be able to have Universal Windows platform applications, which they do have now. They haven't had great success in getting a lot of outside vendors to write applications because they haven't completed the platform yet. But they're working on it, and it'll be interesting when they get there, and they will get there. But OneDrive for office workers allows you to take your work home with you and use it. You can have a Microsoft account that is a business one, so you can take just your business work anywhere you go, home or on a trip somewhere, a business trip, anywhere in the world, and have everything available to you through your Microsoft account in Office 365. Again, all ways that make life easier for the office worker, but also make a little bit of money for Microsoft. This is work slowly in progress, the Universal Windows Platform. They've been after it for years now, and every time they get close, they seem to shoot themselves in the foot. For research groups, big groups that are doing projects, a Universal Windows Platform would be just fabulous with apps that you could share your research with whoever, anywhere in the world. You could share this part of it and not that part of it with this group and not that group. It really works out extremely well using what is developed and what is being developed. Again, a little bit of money involved for Microsoft. So as I started to look at this, they're pushing OneDrive hard, and they've got OneDrive for Apple products, and they've got OneDrive for Google, for Android products. Both free, both fairly highly rated by the users. And I read this article, and it said you can get all of your photos to wind up on Smart Drive. And I know a lot of my friends have problems getting their pictures off their phones or to where they want to put them or all of that. This article goes into how to, once you've downloaded one of those two OneDrive apps for your phone, how to get your phone to put all the pictures you take automatically in that OneDrive folder, whether they're an Android phone or an Apple phone or even an old Windows phone, which sadly I have. Anyhow, I thought that was really neat and thought I would try that out. So I put that application on my new Chromebook. Couldn't get it to work. So I started doing a little research on it, and lo and behold, it doesn't work. And the answer from Microsoft is, yeah, we know it doesn't work, and we know what the fix is, and we intend to do that sometime, but we have no idea when we're going to do it. A typical answer from Microsoft. We know we have a problem. We know it's inconveniencing people. We know how to fix it, but we don't know when we're going to fix it. Not exactly what you want to hear from a company that you want to do business with. So, in the same regard, I had a problem when one of my computers was upgraded to a new version of Windows 10, and all of a sudden the DVD drive did not show up and would not function. And as I started to do a little research on it, there were 13 million hits on that particular problem. And at that point, the answer from Microsoft was, well, buy an external DVD drive that's compatible with Windows 10. Since then, with a lot of time and energy spent, I've got a functioning DVD drive in that computer. It has to do with them changing drivers and what drivers are compatible with what versions of 10. They know things don't work, and they really don't care. So I created a category called the good bad. And some of the things are good and some of the things are not so good. So in order to have the universal Windows platform, they've got to have a mobile something, a cell phone. And they had a Windows phone, and I have two Windows phones, and they work great. And they had Windows 10 on them, and they were fabulous. But that was not to be, and now they're putting their money on Andromeda. It was October 8th of last year that Windows announced that they're just withdrawing from the phone market. They were, because they couldn't penetrate the market, they couldn't, lack of interest from app developers was the reason that they gave. Yes, that's true. But again, the finger was pointing at Microsoft, not the developers. So the new hope is Andromeda. And if you can picture a very thin cell phone that unfolds to give you a full-size viewing screen, touch-sensitive viewing screen. And that's basically what Andromeda is going to be. Everybody said it's a little Surface, but actually it really is a little different. This is from a recently filed patent on how the thing opens up and closes and all that sort of stuff. But more importantly, two attributes this thing is going to have. Now, it's going to be the size of a cell phone, fit in your pocket, and then open up and be almost a full-size tablet. But it will have an eSIM in it. And what that means is if you have a cell phone account, you'll be able to use this device, and it doesn't matter who the carrier is. The carrier will be able to recognize this device as part of your plan. And eSIMs are working, and virtually everybody's agreed to honor the concept. The next big thing that Microsoft has agreed to do is use ARM technology. And what that allows is for extremely long battery life. They're talking about this thing lasting a week. I don't know whether that's without using it or using it a little bit, but anyhow, it will like 10 times the service that you can get currently out of a like Windows phone. So they're working on it. There's a lot of debate on whether it'll be out this year, next year, never. There has been a recent flurry of patent filings in regards to this thing, and typically that's done just before the introduction of it so that the competition doesn't have a chance to look at the patents and start to copy things. So you can probably look for Andromeda to be out sometime later this year. And that'll complete what they need for the universal Windows platform. They didn't have the mobile part of it, and this will be the mobile part of it. You'll be able to make telephone calls on it, but they aren't entering the cell phone race that is dominated by Android and iPhone. They aren't going to get into there. They're going to be in a separate category altogether. This device will be in a separate category altogether. So just one more thing to tuck in your pocket, although most people don't use a cell phone to make phone calls anyhow, and this would be capable of making cell phone calls. So we'll see. Really, the big push currently from Microsoft is OneDrive. And this is the most recent little logo plaque that they've come out with. One place for everything in your life. And that's exactly what they're hoping, that you put everything there, because it'll be useful to you at your fingertips, no matter where you are, no matter what device you want to use, borrow one, whatever, you'll be able to get at your stuff. Their current deal to get OneDrive has got some cost involved. From the free, which everybody gets free when they sign up, is 5 gigs of basic storage, which isn't a giant amount. for those of you that have lots of pictures hanging around on your phone. You can go up to 50 gigs, and you're buying that for a couple bucks a month. And then you can go premium, which allows you to also get Office 365 Personal for $69 a year, and they give you a terabyte. And then the big deal, and that's where they want everybody to go, because you get Office Home rather than Personal, and you get 5 terabytes, which is a fair amount of storage, for $99 a year, which in the overall scope of things is not a lot of money, unless you're paying for a lot of games and a lot of other things, and it's a little drib and a little drab. And who's to say years down the road that they don't separate OneDrive from Office 365, and it turns out to be $99 a year for each. By the time you have everything in your life on OneDrive, most people are going to say, oh, well. Currently, you can buy Microsoft Office Professional 2016, which is the last one that they actually made a disc for, where you can actually buy the software, where you don't have to get it online. They're all legitimate sources, actually. I bought from this company and it actually is a very legitimate copy. Checked with Microsoft, checked the key on it, and it is a legitimate copy. And it's upgraded forever, whatever that means, for 54 bucks total, one-time purchase, and it's the complete suite. So at $99 a year, I'm not sure they're doing you any great favors. So another thing that Microsoft has been playing with that was good, and now it could be bad, and who knows. They have, in the last 2 updates of 10, the big updates, they've made noise that file history may be discontinued. Now, file history, they borrowed actually from Apple. Apple has had that system in place called Timeline forever. And what this does is it really copies keystroke by keystroke as you do things on your computer, everything you do on your computer. And it keeps it in a file. You attach a USB, typically hard drive, fairly large, I would suggest, and set it and forget it. You turn this on, and it will take care of itself. So if you click more options, and to find this, you go to Settings, you go to Updates and Security, and then Backup. And that's where you'll find Windows File History. If you go to more options, these are the settings you can do, and back up my files, and you can choose every 10 minutes or whatever. I chose daily, and to keep them forever. When I started doing this presentation, first time I checked this thing in a very long time, because I back up in several other ways too. But it was the first time I checked in a very long time, and it hadn't been backed up since October of last year. Now, it's set to do it daily. I have no idea why it didn't. Anyhow, I clicked back up now, and it did a backup. And I've checked it since, and it is continuing to do daily backups now. Why it lost its mind and didn't do that, I have no idea, but it did. So to set this thing up, it allows you to choose which folders you want to back up. And you can just add folders by clicking here. And then it gives you the choice of which folders not to back up. You can fill both out, neither out. Well, you need to fill one out if you want this thing to work. Anyhow, once it's functioning, this is what you get. It shows you all the folders that you have chosen to back up. And if you click on them, virtually everything you've done that is related to that folder is there. A little quirk of file history, you can't get at it from where we were there. You actually have to go to the control panel and go to file history from the control panel in order to look at file history. Lots of strange things with Windows 10 placement wise, and it's just they're still playing with it is basically the answer to that. So was a question of where to put this particular slide about the God mode in Windows 10. And there is a trick to getting this thing to be available for you, and it turns out it'll be a folder on your desktop. And it has 202 different items in this folder once you create it. And it is functions of Windows 10, how to find things, how to do things, whatever. And as you start to have problems with Windows 10, or you want to do more with Windows 10, you'll find it references a lot of the functions, and they're very difficult to get at sometimes, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 steps away to get to the function. This lists 202 functions that are available in Windows 10. They're all in one place. It really is, if you're feeling that you are capable of doing some of these things, it really is very, very handy. It is unique. I've put a link on how to get to this thing. So, how to activate, and let's see if I can, there it is right there. So you go on the desktop, you right click, you say new folder, and you name the folder exactly this. And you can copy and paste this so you don't have to type all of this stuff. But if you name the folder exactly that, press enter, all those 202 things magically appear in the folder, and you can do all of those functions of Windows 10 by just opening the folder and clicking. Like I say, good, bad. You know that if you need one of those functions, that's probably bad. But it's right at your fingertips. That's good. So, as we go on to the bad things, remember, there is no such thing as privacy. And we're going to talk about the Universal Windows Platform. Part of the bad. First of all, Microsoft has become cavalier with storage because memory has become fairly inexpensive. They just use it without any thought to how much they're using. I took this screenshot. This is a couple days old, maybe a week or 2 old. This is my Windows folder on the computer that this video was made on. And Windows currently is taking up 32 gigs of space on this computer. It has 120,569 files and 25,178 folders. Is it any wonder that it sometimes malfunctions? That's an awful lot of stuff to have to sort through to make things work the way they're supposed to work quickly. But anyhow, that's just crazy size-wise. You know, they only give you 5 gigs for free when you're using OneDrive. The operating system takes up 6 times that, over 6 times that. UEFI, which is the replacement for BIOS and Secure Boot. Some years ago, Microsoft convinced the computer manufacturers that they should put Secure Boot into the BIOS or UEFI system, which keeps malware from getting into the booting of the unit. And they also convinced the manufacturers that you need a key to get into Secure Boot to change it, and that's why it keeps all this stuff out, all the bad stuff out. Guess who gets to keep the keys? That's right, Microsoft does. And anybody that buys computers from this particular manufacturer and wants to put a operating system other than Windows on it needs to get a key from Microsoft. To this point, they have been okay with giving Linux some keys. In the future, who knows? And what that would mean is if your computer no longer can function under Windows, it becomes a boat anchor, because you can't put a different operating system on it without a Microsoft key. Another part of the bad that most people aren't aware of, all of the Microsoft versions, and this is the first one that was released, this is the one where if you had Windows 7 or 8, you could get a free upgrade to Windows 10, and that was released July 29th of 15, and it expired May 9th of 17th. That was the end of service, which means, in theory, Microsoft was no longer obligated to give you any updates at all on your computer. You needed to upgrade, and everyone knew that that was Windows 10. You would be given new versions of it, actually twice a year, and you had to upgrade to, you didn't have a choice. You had to install the new version of it. And after the expiration date of that, they were no longer obligated to service it. Well, there was, because some of these rollouts of these versions have been horrendous, Microsoft in their infinite wisdom said, well, we'll be good guys and we will continue to give you security updates at least. Not quality updates, but security updates for ones that have expired. So all the versions that you're getting have an expiration date on them, and in theory, Microsoft doesn't have to support them beyond that date. Now, currently they are, and they've said 5 years on some of them, but it's all ambiguous, and the language is almost legalese. So you need to know, though, that they are not obligated beyond the end of service date to continue to service that version of 10. So, updates. One of the big bugaboos for everyone with a machine that's older than 2 years anyhow. So if you have a problem installing an update, and if you have an older machine, you do. I've gone through this and I've got 6 machines running 10 in the house now. 2 of them are just a nightmare to get updated, and I've got one. Unfortunately, it's Lenore's, my wife's, and you'd want it to be any machine but that has that kind of a problem. But it does, and in a minute I'll tell you why it does. But anyhow, Windows Update's problem, and there were 70 million hits on Google about that. And each particular update version has had a different set of problems. So when you hit one, you need to head to Google and find out what your particular problem is about. Although in a minute or two will explain what it might be here. So this particular page from the Microsoft community says, check the list to determine if your computer is compatible with Windows 10. Now that's after they convinced everybody to put Windows 10 on their computer, and now they're going to say, well, your computer may not be compatible with Windows 10. And when you click on this link, it'll take you and you can get a list of, and it's version by version, actually, whether your computer is going to be compatible or not. And the manufacturers are listed here, and you can go to that list and see if your computer is on that list as being compatible. If it's not there, you may want to give up on trying to get that particular update, and then you're going to face an end of service on the version that you're on, and Windows will continually try to install an upgraded version. Now, when they get to these twice a year things, you cannot stop them. They're just there, but they do change them. 1703 was introduced about 4 or 5 different times. They do some fixes after they get a bazillion complaints. They'll put a patch in the version itself to take care of some of the problems. So sometimes it'll be the third or fourth try when it actually does take. But if you go in this list and your computer isn't there, you probably have got a problem that can't be fixed. The ugly. Drivers. And this is going to be the big, what's the problem? As Windows moves along in their versions, you'll find that they're putting drivers into the packages. Sometimes they put the wrong ones in, sometimes they put ones in that are incompatible, and sometimes they don't have one to put in, and the system, the upgrade won't function without it being there. So it is a serious problem. A couple things about it. This link will take you to an article that'll tell you how to stop Windows from installing drivers on your computer. Lots of people are doing that, and it saves a lot of headaches. But that can create other problems down the road because Microsoft assumes certain drivers are there and will put functions, new functions in, and if those drivers aren't there, that function won't work. End of life. This is also ugly and really is just starting to come to light. End of life. Not only does Windows have an end of life, but virtually all computers have an end of life. And it's all about dollars. Again, we're worried about Microsoft making money or the equipment manufacturers making money. Don't worry. I found this article and I found this just absolutely fascinating. It was on a site where you could ask questions of HP. This was the official HP community site. So KRDE asked the question, where can I find a complete overview of all end of life and end of support of all HP products? And the answer, who came from on behalf of HP, we brought this to the attention of our people at HP, and they will get back to you in an email, and they want to know specifically what serial number product are you concerned about, and they will furnish you the information, and that information is private information. You are not allowed to put it on the internet or share it with anyone. They don't want you to know when the end of life of their product is. period. The only one who isn't real tricky about it is Google. And sadly, I found out after just buying a Chromebook that I have about 3.5 years left on it. And their suggestion at the end of life of their products, which is 5 years, get rid of it. It'll be no longer functional. We aren't going to support it. It's no longer functional. And the end of life starts from the introduction of the product. So you have to know when the product was introduced to know when that 5-year clock started. So if you find a great buy on a Chromebook online from a reliable supplier, you might want to find out when that particular version of Chromebook was introduced, not actually was sold, but introduced to the marketplace, because that's when the clock started to tick. Now, the good news is with a Chromebook, at least you're going to be able to, because it doesn't have UEFI on it, you'll be able to put Linux on it without any problem if you're so inclined. Another thing that was, and Microsoft has just taken things away from the operating system and not made much of a big deal about it, and it is a big deal to some people. When they took away Media Center, a lot of people couldn't play their DVDs and couldn't whatever. And it turns out the only reason they did that is they didn't want to pay, and there was, in order to use the DVD logo on the, in conjunction with Microsoft, they had to pay a licensing fee, which came to pennies per unit. But again, there's a lot of units, so they just decided they didn't want to pay that licensing fee, and that's why Media Center disappeared. This version, 1803, that they just came out with, they took away Home Group. If you use it, it's a big loss, and I do with as many computers as I have hanging around my house with Windows 10. Anyone I sit down at, I've got access to everything on all of them. That's great. They've come out with a new function that has to do with the cloud, surprisingly enough, that if you're close to a computer, you can, and it was very murky as to how it was used. It was not Home Group anymore. Near computer, I think is what they call it. Anyhow, I'm going to miss Home Group. They just took it away. There was no fanfare, no notice. It's just gone. Keep calm and wave bye-bye to Home Group. So, up to Windows 8 and 8.1, there was a little tiny program called Microsoft Fix-It. And if you had a problem and you knew it was operating system related, you could download this freeware program, and it's tiny. It was only 439.8 kilobytes. Extremely small. Download the program, run the program, and it would fix a good deal of what was wrong with computers. They actually made a separate one for 8. This one just shows for XP, Vista, and 7. They made a separate one for 8, and it was slightly larger. No, not a lot, but slightly larger. And it worked pretty good. I used it a lot. Well, along came Windows 10. So if you go to Settings, and then you go to Update and Security, you can come down to Troubleshooter. And Troubleshooter is a fix-it program, but very specific fix-it program. So when you get to Troubleshooter, it can fix, you can download a little program and it can look at this particular problem and see if it can fix it for you. So it's internet connections, playing audio, printers, Windows Update, blue screen, Bluetooth. Now this is a column, but I had to fit it on the page here, so I repeated a couple. Hardware and devices, incoming connections, keyboard, network adapters, power, program compatibility, recording audio, search and indexing, shared folders, speech, video playback, and Windows App Store. There is a separate fix-it program for each one of those categories. That's ugly to know that you have that many problems, that people are going to have that much problem with your operating system, that you have to have this many fix-it programs available. That's pretty ugly, folks. So if you don't want to get involved in it, or you got involved in it and it didn't work, there's a whole industry now that has ways to fix all of what might be ailing your computer. And this says it's the 6 best free tools to fix any problems with Windows 10. And we're going to go there, actually. So as you come down the list, and there's a lot of different ones listed here, and it tells you a little bit about each one and what they'll do and why they're good and all that sort of stuff. That one's a tweaker, and this one is a repair program. Missed features, didn't install everything was supposed to install. This one is called Shut Up, and it's by a company, O&O, that I'm a little familiar with. So this one, the shut up part of it is to ensure your privacy. And you can turn things on and off, but it lists all the things that you can turn on and off in one place. So you can do it all from one place. Disable the camera, log on. Sharing your handwriting error reports. An inventory collector. You can turn that on and off. A whole lot of things. Anyhow, so no, Shut Up, and you can go to their site. So they're saying it's free. And having gone through some of these for a variety of reasons, they're only free for limited circumstances. If you have more than 2 problems, they're not free. If you have a certain driver set up, it's not free. So when it says it's free, maybe yes, maybe no, probably no. So I'm going to pick on O&O just for no reason other than I know who they are. So these are the various things that they have available for you to download. And interesting, defrag. That used to be a function that Windows did to itself. So we clicked on that, and their defrag program, the professional, and again, they have a free one, and then they'll tell you why you don't want to be on the free one. A professional one is $30. And they had all those other programs that you might want. And there's a reason why you wouldn't want the free one. You would want the better one, and so on. Also, when you get into this list, you'll find that they're Microsoft partners. It's supposed to make you feel better that Microsoft knows about them. And so I wanted to know about the Microsoft Partner Program, really. What did it involve? What did it cost them to put this little thing up here? And it says they're gold. So it cost them $5,260. And then there's a lot of ancillary costs involved. You have to have 5 Microsoft certified people. If you don't know where to get one, Microsoft certainly can arrange for that. And on and on. Anyhow, so you have the number of dollars that it costs to become a Microsoft partner. The best I can find current, well, last year's numbers, there are at least 700,000 Microsoft partners times an average starting fee. That's billions of dollars that Microsoft gets for allowing them to put this little logo up here. Don't need to worry about Microsoft making money, folks. So now here's the 10 best ones, and it doesn't say anything about free. We know they're going to cost you something. And they put them in a list, and I know this is hard to see back there, so I'm just going to tell you it goes anywhere from about 20 bucks, which is Window Optimizer available on Amazon. Lowest cost one, and it's the second best one available. They rate all of these overall performance. This top one, the 12.6, that's the boost in your system. Was $39. This one was 8.3, and you can get spending $100 for a Norton one. That's $99, and that increased your system capabilities by 3.84%. Doesn't sound like a good investment to me. So, fix Windows 10 software. Do a search for Google. 41,400,000 hits. There's a lot of people making a lot of money because Windows doesn't function right. The good universal Windows platform. If and when they ever get there, that'll be good. That'll be really great. You'll buy an app and it'll be on all your devices, and they'll all be able to use the same app, and you'll get the same look on all your devices, more or less. Obviously screen size has something to do with it, but that's going to be a really good thing when they get there, as long as you're not concerned about privacy or becoming attached at the hip to Microsoft. And that's all in the future. So you're going to have to put up with the warts in the meantime. The bad. Mostly under-tested updates, and that's probably the biggest problem that everyone has with Windows at this point. And their update policy that you have to, and that they keep pushing you, and that it bug you to death, and they take forever, and you can have problems, and then it takes forever and ever. We are now the overworked and unpaid testers. Obviously, Microsoft got rid of theirs, and we've served the function. So just another way that we've helped Microsoft increase their stock value. The ugly. That you need to just keep reminding yourself. They know what you're doing. And eventually, it could cost a lot more than it's costing now. Be picky with who you invest your time in. Wasted time is worse than wasted money. So what's the alternative? Apple? They learn from each other. Apple's equipment is certainly more costly to buy, and if you do enough research, it's not more reliable, actually. But it certainly has more prestige. Chromebook. Again, I've bought one just to see. If I had to use it every day, I'd go crazy. It is very slow, but it's reliable, it's sturdy, and it does what you need to get done. And if at end of life, you could make it into something else other than a boat anchor, so that's probably good. Linux, as long as Microsoft decides to give keys to UEFI, you'll be able to convert things that are no longer functional under Windows into Linux if you're so inclined. It's a little bit of a steep learning curve at the beginning, and to change a piece of equipment over is depends on your skill level. Can be done. For myself, I've chosen a different route. I found this book, and the title is a little misleading. It says it's for IT pros, and it really isn't. It really gives you all the essentials of Windows. It was written a little while ago, although there are updates on it now. This author is the one that at the very beginning of the presentation I said had a book that was over 900 pages that you could rent. This one is free. I think it's about 150 pages, but it really goes through all the basics of Windows 10, and it's written for someone that oversees a lot of computers that has no idea what's going on. So it really is pretty basic on how to set things up and how to change things and so on. It really is a good book. It's a PDF format, and it's free. So you may or may not be interested in getting something like that, but I certainly couldn't cover all that's in that book in a 2-day presentation. So all of the links in this presentation are active. If you click on them, you can go to the sites and get, in this case, get the book. This will be available, this presentation, in PDF format with active links to all NEOPC club members. Questions, anyone? So Windows 10 goes on and on, but this presentation is over. Thanks for watching.